الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. We'll continue our class in going over the answers by Sheikh Muqbil bin Hadi al-Wad'i rahimahullah on questions from sisters, from women. And as we promised before, that inshallah we will try to answer questions from sisters before we start reading from the book. And so any sister who has a question, inshallah they can submit them through the page, the Telegram group that our noble brothers at Sunnah Scene in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia have set up. May Allah reward them with good. May Allah reward our brothers at Sunnah Scene for organizing those classes, as well as all the sisters who are listening to those classes and those who are submitting questions. May Allah reward them with good. May Allah increase them in everything that is good. May Allah reward them abundantly. And there's no doubt, barakallahu feekum, may Allah bless you and protect you and preserve you, that asking questions is from the means of learning and teaching. As the people of knowledge, they mentioned, as Sheikh Abdul al-Badr, hafidhahullah, he mentioned in the beginning of his explanation or commentary on the book, ad-da' wad-dawa, the disease and the medicine, the known book, or which is also called al-Jawab al-Shafi liman sa'ala, al-Jawab al-Kafi liman sa'ala an ad-dawa al-Shafi. And he mentioned, rahimahullah, as the author actually, Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah, he mentioned in the beginning that this book, he wrote this book as an answer to a question from a brother, from a person. And so Sheikh Abdul al-Badr rahimahullah, he mentioned that such excellent questions, the person benefits from it, and we hope that the questioner who asked this question actually benefited. And also we hope that he receives the reward of anyone who benefits from the book, because by way of asking questions, one would be learning and one would be helping others learn bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Now, so one sister, she asked regarding breastfeeding in public places while covered. So the sister asked while covered. First of all, we say, may Allah preserve and protect the sister and all of our sisters, with the condition, with this condition that she is covered. Of course, we should say and we should understand that women are commanded to be covered. With the bounty of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the sister asked while covered. So the sisters, the women are commanded to be covered and not expose themselves. And a woman, of course, is not allowed to breastfeed while showing herself and while exposing herself in front of other women or in front of her maharim, her unmarriable kins. And the only, of course, person who is allowed to see her is her husband. And of course the baby that she is breastfeeding. And if she is covered, if she is fully covered, somehow, I don't know if this is actually possible, Allahu Alam. However, if she is fully covered, meaning that she does not expose anything, such as perhaps there's specific type of abaya that she wears or something like that where she's able to breastfeed without exposing herself, Allahu Alam, perhaps there's no harm. However, it would be better that the sister breastfeeds in a private place, in a closed place, where she does not risk becoming exposed. Because it is, if she has to somehow try to start the process of breastfeeding, Allahu Alam, it is very likely that she will become uncovered, and in that case it is impermissible. That is haram, and she should not do so. And rather, she should breastfeed in a private place. And in general, we advise our sisters not to do anything that risks them becoming exposed and people seeing them. So, of course, we do not recommend that the sister breastfeeds in public unless there's an absolute necessity. If there's an absolute necessity and she is unable to find a private place, absolutely not able to find a private place, and she has no other option, and she is unable to, for example, give her baby a bottle that she has, even from her own milk, barakallahu fikum, that she pumped into a bottle. If she is unable to do any of that, absolutely unable to do any of that, and she's fully covered with her abaya, with her jilbab, covering her from top to bottom, she does not open her jilbab, somehow she is able to do that, then Allahu Alam, there's no harm. However, I don't think this is actually possible. I don't think this is possible. Wallahu Alam, Allah knows best. Na'am, barakallahu feekum. Another sister, she asked about the awrah between a mother and her son, and likewise between a brother and his sister, the sister with her brother. What is the awrah of the woman, of the mother in the presence of her son, and the sister in the presence of her brother? We say, barakallahu feekum, this is in general the same as the awrah of women, the private places of the women that she is not allowed to show, or the places that she is allowed to show in front of her maharim, in front of her unmarriable kins. And that is that she's allowed, barakallahu feekum, she's allowed to show her hair, of course her face, her neck, and her arms, and her legs from underneath, from the knees down, without showing the knees. This is her awrah in front of her unmarriable kin. So a woman is not allowed to expose her her chest area or her upper legs from the knees up. She's not allowed to show her, of course, her stomach area or her back or any of that in front of the women or in front of her unmarriable kin. What she's allowed to show is her hands and arms, lower legs without the knees, and her head and neck, and of course her face. That she's allowed to show. Wallahu alam. And there are more questions. Another question is, can a woman learn Quran from a male teacher? So we say to the sister, it depends, barakallahu fiki. If you are referring to listening to a teacher, a male teacher, reciting Quran and teaching how to recite the Quran without you reciting, so you're listening, for example, a teacher teaching the rules of tajweed, the rules of the recitation of the Quran, how to recite, for example, the teachers explaining how to recite properly some verses from the Quran or some surah from the Quran. So he goes through, for example, explaining those rules and reciting the verses, pointing out errors that people fall into and the likes of these things. Inshallah, there's no harm in that case. However, if you mean that you want to recite in the presence of this male teacher, of course we're assuming that he is not an unmarriable kin, nor is he your husband, then this should not be the case. Because in the recitation of the Quran, a person beautifies his voice and the person softens his voice. And there is no doubt that the women are commanded to not soften their voice and beautify their voices when they are in the presence of the men. And therefore, a woman should not recite Quran in the presence of men who are unmarriable kin and not their husband. And Umar bin Abdul Aziz, rahimahullah, he wrote to Maymun that he wrote to him, do not sit alone with a woman, even if it was that you teach her the Quran. The shaitan, may Allah preserve all of my noble sisters, the shaitan is diligent in making us fall into sin, into mistakes, into errors. And the shaitan is diligent in beautifying the women to the men and the men to the women, and in causing fitna, trials and tribulations in regards to their religion. And the shaitan will come to the person and tells the person and try to whisper in their ears and to trick them into thinking that they are doing something good. This is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a religious matter. This is a matter of learning the religion. And so the shaitan will try to make them compromise in regards to their religion by way of thinking that they are seeking nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So all of that should be avoided. Barakallahu feekum. A woman should not recite Quran in the presence of men, as we mentioned. Wallahu ta'ala a'la wa a'lam. And we'll stop here with those questions. We have a couple more questions, inshallah, that we will postpone until next class to be able to read a little bit from the book itself and benefit from that. So al-Sheikh rahimahullah was asked, al-Sheikh Muqbil bin Hadi al-Wad'i rahimahullah was asked, هل ملامسة المرأة ينقض الوضوء سواء كانت أجنبية أو زوجة أو غيرها؟ ما المقصود من الملامسة? Does touching a woman break one's wudu, whether she is unmarriageable kin or the person's wife or other than that? And what is meant here by the word touching a woman? So al-Sheikh rahimahullah, he said ملامسة المرأة الأجنبية محرمة. He said touching an unmarriageable kin from the women is impermissible. وقد روى الطبراني في معجمه عن معقل بن يسار رضي الله عنه أنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لأن يطعن في رأس أحدكم بمخيط من حديد خير له من أن يمس امرأة لا تحل له. So the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, for one of you to be hit with a needle made of iron. Needle here, what is meant is the people of knowledge, they say anything of iron, and the needle is mentioned specifically because it hurts. Now, خير له من أن يمس امرأة لا تحل له. It is better for him than him touching a woman that is not permissible for him. وهذا حديث أخرجه البخاري ومسلم في صحيحيهما عن أبي هريرة. نعم عفوا الأول رواه الطبراني رحمه الله وهو حسن. And this hadith is strong and sound. وقال الشيخ رحمه الله وروى البخاري ومسلم في صحيحيهما عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه. So he said both al-Bukhari and Muslim reported from the hadith of Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم, he said, كتب على ابن آدم نصيبه من الزنا مدرك ذلك لا محالة. Everyone has his part and his portion of adultery. He will be harmed with that there's no way around it. فالعينان زناهما النظر. As for the eyes, the form of adultery that they commit is looking. وَالْأُذُنَانِ زِنَاهُمَا الْإِسْتِمَاعِ. And as for the ears, their zina, their adultery is listening. وَاللِّسَانُ زِنَاهُ الْكَلَامِ. As for the tongue, its zina, its adultery is the speech. وَالْيَدُ زِنَاهَ الْبَطْشِ. And the hand, its adultery and its zina is striking or touching. وَالرِّجْلُ زِنَاهَ الْمَشِي. As for the foot or the leg, its adultery is the walking. وَالْقَلْبُ يَهْوَى وَيَتَمَنَّى وَيُصَدِّقُ ذَلِكَ الْفَرْجُ أَوْ يُكَذِّبُ. And the heart desires, and then one's private parts either agrees with that or turns it away. فعلم من هذا أن لمس المرأة الأجنبية لغير حاجة لا يجوز. From that we come to know that touching a woman, an unmarriageable kin from the women, is impermissible without a reason, without a need, without a necessity. أما لحاجة كأن يكون الشخص طبيبا أو المرأة تكون نفسها طبيبة فلا بأس. As if the person, whether the man, the male or the female, was a doctor, then there's no harm. So if there is a necessity. أما هل اللمس ناقض أم لا? Does the touch cause one's wudu to be broken or does it not? هذا يعني قال فلمس المرأة ليس بناقض على الصحيح من أقوال أهل العلم. So touching a woman does not break one's wudu, and this is a stronger opinion from the opinions of the people of knowledge. ومن استدل بقول الله عز وجل أو لامستم النساء فالمراد ها هنا باللمس الجماع كما قال ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما. So as for one who uses the ayah, the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or you touch that means, or you touch the women, what is meant is have a relationship with them, not just a normal touch, but rather what is meant is having a relationship with them, as Ibn Abbas رضي الله عنهما explained. روى البخاري في صحيحه عن عائشة رضي الله عنها أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يصلي في الليل، قالت وأنا معترضة أمامه فإذا أراد أن يسجد غمز رجلي فلم ينتقد وضوء النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فالأمر سهل في هذا. Aisha رضي الله عنها, she mentioned that the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم used to pray at night, and she would be in front of him. She would be laying down in front of him, and when he wanted to make sujood, he would touch her leg as to move it. And the people of knowledge, they said, or her foot, the people of knowledge, they said that this is an evidence that he touched her, so that means it does not break his wudu. قال الذين يقولون إنه ناقض يستدلون بما جاء في السنن من حديث معاذ بن جبل رضي الله عنه أن رجلا أتى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم فقال يا رسول الله إني قبلت امرأة فسكت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم حتى أنزل الله وأقم الصلاة طرفي النهار وزلفا من الليل إن الحسنات يذهبن السيئات ذلك ذكرى للذاكرين فقال له النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قم فتوضأ وصلي ركعتين. So those who say that it is that touching a woman breaks one's wudu, they use as evidence the hadith of Mu'adh bin Jabal radiallahu anh, that a man came to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he said, O Messenger of Allah, I kissed a woman, and the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam remained quiet, meaning that he fell into sin, to disobedience, and he asked the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he regretted the sin, and he came and asked the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said to him, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down the ayah وَأَقِمِ الصَّلَاةَ طَرَفَيِ النَّهَارِ وَزُلَفًا مِنَ اللَّيْلِ, and the meaning of the ayah, establish a prayer in the two, in beginning and the end of the day, or before and after the day, meaning the night prayers from Fajr and the two boundaries of the day. وَزُلَفًا مِنَ اللَّيْلِ, and part of the night. إِنَّ الْحَسَنَاتِ يُذْهِبْنَ السَّيِّئَاتِ, indeed righteous good deeds remove the sins. ذَلِكَ ذِكْرَى لِلذَّاكِرِينَ, that is a reminder for those who remember. So the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said to him, get up, perform wudu, and pray 2 raka'at. So they use this as an evidence. قال هذا حديث لا يثبت لأنه من طريق عبد الرحمن بن أبي ليلى وهو لم يسمعه من معاذ بن جبل رضي الله عنه. هذا أمر. الأمر الثاني لو ثبت ما دل على أنه يكون ناقضا لأنه ما ثبت لما دل على أن يكون ناقضا لأنه يحتمل أن الرجل لم يكن على وضوء. هذا من جملة أدلتهم على الآية الكريمة وقد عرفتم أن ابن عباس رضي الله عنه فسر هذا بالجماع والله المستعان. So the Sheikh rahimahullah, he said this hadith is not authentic. There is another narration that is authentic, however it does not say get up, perform wudu and pray, and rather it says, did you pray with us? And he said yes, and he said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, inna hasanati yudhibna as-sayyi'at, indeed the righteous good deeds remove the sins. So, and that's it, without saying get up and pray or perform wudu and pray. So he said, therefore, and even if it was authentic, even if this narration was to be authentic and considered authentic, he said this is not an evidence that kissing the woman broke his wudu, and rather it could be understood that he was not upon wudu, and the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded him to perform wudu and pray, because performing wudu is a condition for the prayer. Now, Wallahu ta'ala ala wa alam, he said, so this is not an evidence, and rather, and they use it along with the statement of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أَوْ لَامَسْتُمُ النِّسَاء, or you touch the women, in the ayah regarding the performing ablution, that they use it as an evidence, and in truth that is regarding having a relationship, as we mentioned before, not in regards to a touch, for example on the hand or the likes. Wallahu a'lam. SubhanAllah, I just noticed that we skipped a few questions, that I mistakenly skipped a few questions that from the book. So inshallah, we will go back a few questions in the book, back to where we actually reached, as to not miss those questions بإذن ta'ala. نعم. And we will conclude with this. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.